You've probably said it before, or, heard someone else say it. I just have trust issues. It sounds simple, almost harmless, like it's just part of your personality. Like being cautious is just who you are. But what if that's not the truth? What if you don't actually have trust issues? What if what you're carrying is something deeper, something older, something that didn't start with the people in front of you, but with what happened long before them? Because here's the reality most people avoid. You don't wake up one day and decide not to trust people. Trust is your natural state. As a child, you trusted easily. You believed what people told you. You opened up without hesitation. You didn't second-guess love, attention, or care. So what changed? Something broke that trust. Maybe it was betrayal. Maybe it was inconsistency. Maybe it was being let down over and over again until your mind learned one thing. Don't rely on anyone. And that's where it starts. Not as a conscious decision, but as protection. Because, what we call trust issues is often just your brain trying to keep you safe from experiencing the same pain again. Think about it for a moment. When someone gets close to you, what happens? You don't relax. You scan. You question. You analyze every word, every delay, every shift in tone. Not because you want to, but because your system has been trained to expect something to go wrong. That's not distrust. That's trauma responding. And trauma doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't have to be one big obvious event. Sometimes it's subtle. It's growing up around people who said they loved you but didn't show up. It's being ignored when you needed attention. It's being criticized when you tried to express yourself. It's being made to feel like your emotions were too much or not important. Over time, your mind connects closeness with pain. So now, when someone tries to get close, you pull back. Not because they've done something wrong, but because your body remembers something they didn't do. And, this is where people get stuck. They think the problem is other people. They're not trustworthy. They always leave. They always change. But if you look honestly, you might notice a pattern. Not just in who you meet, but in how you respond. You might, push people away before they get too close. You might test them without realizing it. You might expect disappointment so strongly that you behave in ways that almost guarantee it. And then, when it happens, it confirms the belief. See? I knew it. You can't trust anyone. But what's really happening is deeper than that. You're not reacting to the present. You're reacting to the past. And until you separate those two, nothing changes. Because trauma doesn't ask for permission. It shows up automatically. It whispers things like, don't open up too much, don't depend on them, stay in control. And, on the surface, those sound smart. They sound like strength. But underneath, they're rooted in fear. Fear of being hurt again. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of feeling what you once felt. So, instead of risking that, you build walls. But here's the cost no one talks about. The same walls that protect you also isolate you. You avoid pain, but you also avoid connection. You stay safe, but you also stay alone, even when you're with someone. And over time, that becomes your normal. Not because it feels good, but because it feels familiar. And, familiar always feels safer than the unknown, even if it's not better. So what do? First, you stop labeling yourself as someone with trust issues. Because that label keeps you stuck. It makes it sound like a permanent flaw, instead of a learned response. And anything learned can be unlearned. Second, you get honest about your patterns, not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. Ask yourself, when do I feel the urge to pull away? What triggers my doubt? What am I afraid will happen? And most importantly, does this fear belong to this moment, or to something I experienced before? That question alone can change everything. Because it creates space. Space between what's happening now and what happened then. And in that space, you get a choice. You can either react the same way you always have, or you can pause and choose differently. Not perfectly, not all at once, but gradually. Healing doesn't mean you suddenly trust everyone. It means you become aware of why you don't. It means you stop punishing new people for old wounds. It means you allow yourself to experience connection without letting fear run the entire show. And yes, that's uncomfortable, because you're stepping into the unknown. But that's also where real change happens, because the goal isn't blind trust. The goal is conscious trust, the kind where you see clearly, but don't shut down automatically. It's the kind where you give people a chance, without abandoning yourself. And most importantly, the kind where you realize this. Your past may explain your reactions, but it doesn't have to define your future. You are not broken. You adapted. You survived. You learned how to protect yourself the only way you knew how. But now you have the opportunity to learn something new, to trust not blindly, not instantly, but intentionally, to let people in, not all at once, but step by step. To stop living like every connection will hurt you, and start giving yourself the chance to experience something different. Because, honestly, you don't have trust issues. You have wounds that haven't been fully understood yet. And once you understand them, you stop running from connection and start choosing it with awareness, strength, and control.